At this time, it's my pleasure to call forward tonight's participant, tonight's speaker in this year's series of Women First, Madeline Rosenberg. Madeline, if you'll come forward. It's been so wonderful to have you with us here, visiting our congregation, lending your voice to our prayers, and bringing with you tonight a number of folks in the cheering session from Louisville, and we're always happy to have you with us, and we hope that this continues to be part of many, many more visits in the months and years to come.
Pockets. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Like Joseph's family, I am a shepherd. The running joke in my life is that I can relate any Torah verse to sheep. And in fact, that's also part of my professional work. Ironically, sheep are mentioned in this parsha, but that's not the message I'm supposed to give tonight. I will say this: the main symbol on my dress is ram's horns, fitting for a shepherd, no? There's a greater overall design on this fabric, as there is in our lives. That means see how God works in tandem. God is a mixed media artist. Light can't be appreciated without dark. Strength means nothing without humility. Joy is tasteless without sorrow. Duality. Joseph and his box of darkness versus Judah and his light. Joseph excelled at dwelling in darkness. His gift was dream interpretation. Most of us dream at night, no? He lost his freedom, his family, his sense of place, his social identity, and his childhood simply for being himself. Now, if that seems remote to you, consider the children in our country right now suffering a very similar experience. Joseph spent 12 years in prison, a place not known for its scenic views, for a crime committed against him, a Me Too situation from which he fled. Another Torah lesson: believe the victim. No one believed Joseph, so he just put his head down and did as he was told. Those painful, shameful situations temporarily strip us of our power, our sense of control. We react to trauma by shutting down. We build walls as fast and as high and as thick as possible so no one can ever hurt us again. From Jacob's errand boy to managing Potiphar's household, to running the white-collar royal prison, to viceroy of Egypt, Joseph's ability to compartmentalize made him a natural administrator and a strong survivor. In freedom, this defense mechanism was only reinforced and rewarded. Second in Egypt to Pharaoh, a wife selected for him from the family of his accuser. People bowed to him in the streets. All meaningless. We survive in the darkness, but we thrive in the light. Poor Joseph, grown Joseph, popular buddy of Pharaoh, savior of Egypt, was merely surviving. He named his first son Manasseh, which means God has made me forget completely my hardship and my parental home. Ouch. Also, not true. In fact, not only had his loved ones handed him a box of darkness, he chose to go ahead and build his heart a little box for it to live in. We've inherited Joseph's survival traits. The Jewish people are masters of memory. Every week we sing about it. Shemor v'zakor, keep and remember. Remember what happened to you when you were a slave in Egypt. Remember the covenant God made with us. Remember the mitzvot, our key to survival. Remember that wherever we go, it is eternally Mitzrayim, the narrow straits, a world of pain. What's the slogan of every Jewish holiday? They tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat. No, these things happen. No reason to cry over a perfectly good brisket. L'dor vador, each generation has been a shamash to the next. Here's how you kvetch, here's the recipe for matzo ball soup, and oh yeah, always be ready to flee. Trauma is a part of our history, and we cope communally. Joseph had to cope alone. In your lonely hours, how do you avoid bitterness? Do you hide who you are out of fear that others will recognize your pain? Do you hide behind your success or the facade of how very adult you've become? Viceroy, prophet, loving husband, father of two. Joseph did well for himself, preparing all Egypt for 7 years of famine, but he wasn't prepared for the fulfillment of the dream that had landed him in a physical and emotional pit. The 10 brothers who had sinned against him appeared prostrate in his throne room, begging for their lives as he had begged them for mercy. It was as he foresaw. He should have known what comes next, how to act, how to feel, right? Hurt people hurt people. And Joseph's no exception. That's one use of sorrow, but it's not a good one. Rabbi Rachel Adler wrote, "Sin in the context of relationship is an injury toward an other rendered vulnerable by his or her trust. Teshuvah is returning again to face the other, not to annul what has occurred, but to sew up the wounds and determine how to go on." Joseph seems only interested in retribution. He feels justified in levying the same pain on his family that they caused him. He's lobbed unfounded accusations, imprisoned them, hidden money, played games, hidden silver as a ruse to enslave his full brother, and passive-aggressively tried to recreate the incident with at least 3 of his half-brothers as victims. Nowhere does the Torah say that Joseph visited, acknowledged, or revealed himself to Shimon while the family went back to get Benjamin. He left his brother to rot in prison, just like they had done to him. Is this the action of a tzaddik? On the contrary, Joseph chooses the self-imposed emotional bondage, the continued darkness of winning. Trauma places markers in the brain. Part of us stays perpetually the age we were when the trauma occurred. So Joseph's inner 17-year-old wants his family to recognize him and apologize. He wants them to undo what they've done and make it all okay. Yet despite his clues and his cruelty, they're unwilling or unable. One of trauma's more painful lessons is forgiveness without teshuvah, forgiving the perpetrator that has made neither apology nor asked for forgiveness, for our sake, not for theirs. Most of the time, we don't get the apology we feel we deserve. And sometimes the apology we get is as painful as what we endured. The wounds we suffer compound, bleeding at unexpected times and inconvenient times. We rarely get answers for why we suffer. How do you repair what will always be broken? Joseph can't be unsold. He can't reclaim the years he spent in slavery, prison, and familial isolation. His brothers stand before him in a painful show of solidarity and fraternal compassion that he was never afforded. While therapists today might tell a survivor it's okay not to be okay, Joseph has never had that luxury. Here comes Judah, Joseph's betrayer, the hand that passed him to slavers, the brother most directly responsible for his sorrow. But Judah is as unrecognizable as Joseph is to his brothers. Judah's an interesting guy. After the incident, he moves away from his family. He has a whole life. He raises a bunch of sheep, survives his wife and 2 of his 3 sons. He impregnates Tamar, calls a Beit Din, and they condemn her, pregnant with his twins, to burn to death. She shows no fear. She looks him dead in the eyes and calls him to task. And that is the inciting incident of Teshuvah for Judah. When confronted with his role in causing darkness, he chooses to transform his power to harm into power to heal. In moments of suffering, ask yourself 2 questions. What is my capacity to bring light? And what is my role in this darkness? A man of power, like Joseph, uses confrontation as a tool to keep others at bay. A powerful man, like Judah, confronts himself and allows what he finds to change him for the better. That's why we aren't Josephites, we're Jews. Judah the lion deals with the world, if not through anger, certainly through righteous indignation. Face to face with his brother, his sin, he faces a choice. He can deal with this the way he always has. Ganuk shoin, I'm responsible. I will not allow my family to suffer. Stop this mishigas. Or he can try something different. Judah chooses Vayigash. He chooses to draw near. He says, let not your anger flare up. This speech is as much for him as it is directed at Joseph. If it's not too much trouble, could I have a word? In this moment, Judah embodies the words of Bakya ibn Pekuda. Humility is the root and beginning of repentance. Judaism defines sin as missing the mark. Joseph missed when he rejected his brothers, and then again when he set them up to fail. He was trying to share his box of darkness. For atonement to take place, someone has to choose to show others the way forward. Think of the headlights on your car, the way we hold flashlights out in front of us, or the way we flip a switch before entering the room. Light always enters darkness. Judah became the light. Judah, who had done teshuvah, who was willing to be vulnerable to make his family whole again. Judah's actions answer Cain's question, am I my brother's keeper? In the affirmative. And God rewards Judah with a greater wholeness than he ever thought possible. When Judah approaches Joseph from a place of truth, willing to extend trust, Joseph responds in kind. Weeping, he steps into the light. Ani Yosef, I'm your brother. Of course they couldn't know him before. All those walls built from pain, all that work, that time, that struggle, that effort to stay in darkness. How could anyone see the wounded Joseph inside? How could Joseph see the gift in the bottom of the box? As Joseph transitions from victim to survivor, he's able to recognize that his experiences are a gift. Genesis chapter 45, verse 5, he says, be not distressed nor reproach yourselves for having sold me here, for it was to be a provider that God sent me ahead of you. He repeats in verse 7, God has sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival in the land and to sustain you for a momentous deliverance. And verse 8, it was not you who sent me here, but God. I posit that he repeated this assurance 3 times as he spoke to his 3 brothers, the ones he had previously punished. This is the moment of teshuvah. The brothers have asked, and Joseph is able to forgive. This is the first complete fraternal reconciliation in the Torah, the first time a family is able to permanently repair their relationship and live together in peace. Still, no one in Jacob's family follows the adage, forgive and forget. When Jacob dies, the brothers openly fear that Joseph will then enact retribution. He reminds them that God turned their evil intentions to blessing. Death is the one trauma that none of us escape. Grief is in everyone's box, in equal measure to the love that we share throughout our lives. We acknowledge it weekly, annually, communally. As one of our own lights are extinguished, we're surrounded by no less than 10. Kaddish is a fixed point of light, refracted by our tears. And like Joseph and his brothers, in our moment of greatest vulnerability, we audibly bless the creator of the universe. Using sorrow for blessing flips the light on in our hearts. On the back of your service program, you'll find a poem by Mary Oliver. She said it came to her in a dream, and she wrote it down as soon as she woke. People Joseph loved once gave him a box of darkness. It took him 22 years to realize that this, too, was a gift. When your heart is open and the light is on, you can see clearly. 20/20 vision, if you will. In this new year, may we have the faith to find the gifts in boxes of darkness, the uses of our sorrow. May we be blessed with lights to guide us, and may we lend strength to others by lighting their way. May this be our blessing. Amen.
Amen. Yasha Koach, thank you for those powerful and profound words. You should know that these remarks in our Women's First series are going to be archived when we archive the individual, what do we call them, streamings, when they're live streams, so the live streams or streamlined or whatever it is, that you can find on the website. And then we'll also take the words themselves. Some have spoken from notes, others have spoken directly from their hearts. In this case, we had a polished document at the ready, so we'll make that available in writing as well. But for now, we'll simply say Toda Rabbah for those very insightful words dealing with the tragedy and traumas that this family endured, and perhaps a model way forward for us. Thank you. Ask the congregation to please rise as we turn to Aleinu, page 586.